What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22 My Team career mode. Last time out we were in Jeddah and we had a pretty good result. It was actually our best result of our career so far. It was a P4 finish after a P5 qualifying. Just a really solid weekend overall in a car that probably, you could argue, is not quite at that level so far. Have a little marketing event going on here. I wasn't really sure what it was asking me to do, so I just went with one of the options. And now, yeah, we're gonna throw some activities in, mostly just to boost the experience of ENZO and anything that we can do to sort of boost him as a driver, and also boost our team. Those are the things I really care about. I find that the sort of morale boosting events for the departments aren't particularly useful, so I tend to not do those. But yeah, this time out we're going to be in Australia for the Australian Grand Prix. Last year it didn't go overly well, if I remember correctly. I think I was racing with Alex Albon for most of the race, so get a little achievement there. If we can avoid doing that and maybe have a race with some slightly faster cars this time, that would be nice. We're still the worst car on the grid by a little ways, but we're slowly making our way in line with AlphaTauri, Williams, just looking to see if there was anything I could afford here in the marketing perspective, not the marketing perspective, in any of the departments. And yeah, I think the cheapest thing is about 3 million, so we're still a little way off, but you know, we're getting there, and we're making money. You know, we're usually hitting at least 2 of our sponsor bonuses every single race, which is nice, and we're getting lots of money every week. Once we get to team level 25, that's going to be really good, because then we can get a 4th sponsor, and hopefully by that point we'll be somewhat fast and we can get a bigger title sponsor as well. So skip over the Pirelli Hot Lap, because as I said, I'm not going to be doing those this season, and then we can get into the race weekend proper, which as always starts with practice. Yeah, I think since the track update to Australia, I've noticed that this has suddenly become a lot stronger of a track for me, which makes sense because the corner that they got rid of entirely, or the chicane or whatever you want to call it, it was probably my slowest corner on the entire track. So for them to get rid of it has like massively improved my ability to drive compared to the AI. So yeah, typically I'm pretty good around here. However, I think this practice session and also the race, not qualifying, are all going to be rain affected. So yeah, there's going to be a question about how well I can do there. I actually came last in this practice session, but take that with a grain of salt, because everyone went out later than I did. I did all my running in the first sort of 20 to 30 minutes of the session, and I think everyone, even when the track was still wet, was going out a bit later than that, and most people managed to get a dry run in, whereas I didn't. So yeah, I wasn't too concerned about that, and we'll just see in qualifying. I think qualifying is probably going to be my best bet this weekend, given that that's supposed to be dry, so I could probably see myself getting you know, a decent qualifying position, and just trying to consolidate that in the wet. I just find that in the game the wet is a little bit harder to drive in than in the dry, and obviously that seems logical, but I mean compared to the AI, I think they struggle with it less than the player struggles with it. And I've heard similar accounts from lots of other players of this game who say they find it way harder to keep up with AI on the same level when the rain's out. So yeah, now we move forward through to qualifying, and like I said, this is going to be a really important session because it's going to be a rain affected race. We kind of need to do well here, and if we don't, I think we're going to be sort of in trouble. It's not impossible to overtake even in the wet around this track, especially now that they've changed that corner complex. It's made it way easier to overtake, but yeah, it just means that cars are going to be able to start getting away from us. I think we're going to have a real difficulty trying to get points. My first flying run on a set of medium tyres was a 1:19.6, I believe. And that wasn't very good, so I did need to desperately improve that. Unfortunately, we find ourselves in a bit of traffic from our teammate Enzo Fittipaldi. He is he's directly in front of us, and with the greatest will in the world to him, the guy I signed to be my teammate because I thought he'd be fast, I'm faster, and yeah, there still is no option to say, teammate, get out of the way. He probably wasn't making it out of Q1 anyway. And as you see, as we come through here, I don't know if it's setup or slipstream or what, but I definitely have the overspeed on him here, and now I have to try and navigate overtaking him, which, as you can see, has cost me several tenths. Pretty much all the time that I had made up over the course of my lap so far is gone, and you can see he's going to attack me back into this corner, which means I needed to take it slightly wide as well. I do end up gaining time there, but I could have gained way more if I hadn't been worried about Fittipaldi behind. Because we're on a set of softs instead of a set of mediums, we are still making up time all throughout this sort of section, but we could have easily been sort of like a second up if not for that. We end up going about 4 tenths faster, and in the end that is good enough for 20th. So we will be starting not in the on the back row, but pretty much as close to the back row as you can get without being on the back row. And then if you subtract 6 tenths from that, you see I probably would have been like 11th or 12th or something like that. You know, I would have been around Joe, Schumacher, Magnussen, those kind of drivers. So yeah, very, very frustrating to be held up by my teammate in qualifying, but we're just going to have to make the best out of a bad situation, I think. Fittipaldi at least did qualify last. So it wasn't one of those weird things where sometimes even though you catch up to them, they somehow end up setting a faster lap time than you, which I have had before. And yeah, now all we can do is just try and get our way back into this. Does mean that Fernando Alonso starts to pull away a tiny bit in our rivalry with only 4 races to go. We're going to need to have a good result soon if we want to win that one. And yeah, I just don't know how this race is going to go now, really, with the sort of uncertainty of the rain. Maybe there'll be some safety cars that can keep me in it until the track gets dry, because I'm notorious for sort of falling away from the pack when it's wet and there's less traction, because the AI just seem to be so superior at finding traction. Fortunately, it looks like the rain will calm down at some point during the race. But anyway, let's get into it.
It's race day here in Melbourne as we continue with what could shape up to be one of the best Australian Grand Prix ever. We're a stone's throw from the enormous Port Phillip Bay for today's race at the 3.28-mile Albert Park circuit. It's a bumpy racing surface here, and the 14 corners could prove especially difficult in the wet conditions. So watch out for a safety car at some point during this Grand Prix. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, and Russell. Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Ricciardo, and Kevin Magnussen. Gasly, Albon, Mick Schumacher, and Ocon. Joe, Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, and Sebastian Vettel. Schwartzman, Robinson, Latifi, ENZO Fittipaldi. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway.
After the points finished last race, let's aim to keep that momentum going.
So Anthony Davidson had nothing to say on this occasion, or maybe it was Natalie Pinkham, I'm not sure. But either way, they were eerily silent on this occasion, as they all too often are at the moment in this game. Yeah, Fittipaldi somehow got slapped with a penalty, not that it makes any difference because he was starting in last, so now he's going to be starting in last anyway. No one else had a penalty. I'm not sure how he got a penalty. I don't think it was from blocking me in qualifying, but if it was, then in the words of Fernando Alonso, karma. And yeah, now we find ourselves on the formation lap, getting ready to line up on the grid, and it's just going to be a case of can I get a good start and contend with the cars around me and try and make as much progress up the field as I can. Pretty good parking, and now yeah, we just have to get ready. It's not going to be too long a wait because we're towards the back on this occasion. And here we go, the lights come on. And the lights go out, and here we go. So it's a pretty mediocre start, all things considered, and you see through the sort of second phase as I try to move over to the left, I'm being challenged by Latifi. This allows Fittipaldi through, actually, and then I try and go around the outside of Schwartzman, and then Vettel kind of covers me off a little bit. And yeah, now you just see the whole gaggle of cars coming through. I'm battling Schwartzman as we go on the run down, but he's just far enough ahead in front of me that he kind of covers me off, as you can see here, and I kind of get squeezed out. Latifi dove up the inside, so he managed to make up a couple places by doing that, and then I'm just getting sort of blocked out. I make a bit of a mistake there and lose a lot of speed, and that allows Fittipaldi through as well. So we're actually down into last place on this first lap, and already significantly falling away from the cars in front. So we're going to have a big task in this race now if we want to make up positions. We're going to have to really attack, and fortunately the setup I'm running is quite a stable setup. It's not likely that if we attack we're going to have lots of spins and stuff like that, but yeah, it's going to be tough. I was hoping to make up a few places on the opening lap, but instead I've kind of lost a few places. Towards the end of the lap we do kind of send one a bit on Enzo Fittipaldi, but you know, I think we all know who's the number one driver here. There's no illusions about it. With Lundgaard, it was close between me and him, but when I had Schwartzman as my teammate, and when I had Fittipaldi, and now I have Fittipaldi as my teammate, it's kind of been a non-contest so far. So yeah, now we're just looking to make up as many places as we can over the course of the race. Maybe if there's a safety car at an opportune moment, we can kind of get back into it. The cars in front are braking super early, so I'm thinking that some dive bombs and stuff might be on the cards. Licking the stamp and sending it, as Daniel Ricciardo would say. And it's the philosophy I'm going to adopt here as I go up the inside of Nicholas Latifi. He just leaves the door open a tiny bit for me, and I walk straight through. I am not taking any prisoners in this race. And now we're back up to where we started. Things are kind of restored to their natural order, and now it's time to try and make up some places and see if we can, you know, maybe not get into the points, but maybe get into the fringes, just outside the points or something like that. That would be ideal. I don't want to be finishing this race in a position that starts with a 2. Go for a bit of a dive bomb on Schwartzman there. Stroll has a bit of a dodgy defense against Vettel there, unsurprisingly, if you know those two's history. And yeah, now I'm kind of invited into the fight with the Aston Martins a bit, so I'm going to try and take my chances at an opportune moment to see if I can get ahead of Vettel and maybe ahead of Stroll as well. These guys yeah, notorious for squabbling with one another, so maybe they can squabble a bit more, and I can capitalise on that. Would be the ideal scenario. It seems like Stroll is maybe I don't know, not going as slowly as he was before, allowing Vettel into the fight, which is annoying because it means that they're kind of starting to not pull away, but I'm not doing what I did. I broke a little bit late there and tried to kind of turn that into a move around the outside of Vettel, which I kind of keep my foot in for the next corner, but he kind of bullies me out of it, and that invites Schwartzman back into the fight. We do manage to keep him behind just, but we don't manage to make up the position, which is a shame, but you know, we got plenty more laps to attack him. Here we are now on lap 5, still haven't made up the position, and this is the part where I get the notification from Mark that we have some kind of problem. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what kind of problem that is. If you've seen the length of the video, I'm sure you've probably already figured it out, but I will keep being the naive narrator who's not sure. So yeah, at this point we're still trying to get ahead of Vettel as Max Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the race. Fittipaldi's fallen off quite dramatically at this point. I think he's struggling in the wet even more than I am, but he has managed to get ahead of Latifi, which is good. So yeah, maybe he won't finish last. Oh no, who saw that coming? Not me, that's for sure and certain. Wow. Yeah, no, that was honestly, this was a lot nicer than in previous scenarios where I've had that happen, because at least on this occasion I wasn't running in the points or looking like I was really even in a shot of getting points. So yeah, obviously disappointing, and it means we're probably going to have to take a penalty later in the season, but we probably would have had to do that anyway, so it's just upfronting the inevitable.
The Red Bull team are ready and waiting to celebrate a thoroughly deserved win. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Rain always has the potential to liven up a race and mix up the order, and they've taken full advantage of that to claim the victory today. It's a bit of a lottery when the conditions are like this, but they've managed to stay on the circuit and have come out on top.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sport that you can't help but be delighted by today's race win.
So yeah, Max Verstappen claims his second win of the season. Red Bull so far have won every race. But at least we got a McLaren on the podium, which is nice to see. Lando Norris up there. As I was saying before, obviously McLaren are a team that have sort of the ability to compete up front, and that's kind of been showcased by this podium finish. And then Leclerc came in P2 as well. He's not having a great season defending his championship, but he's still in the fight. Definitely still in the fight.
Max Verstappen should be pleased with his performance, making gains at the top of the table. Let's focus on the driver of the day. Natalie Pinkham, come on, who do you pick?
Charles Leclerc showed exactly how to manage yourself out on track today. He was almost flawless out there. Incredible stuff.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. And pulling further ahead in the standings, it's Red Bull. Meanwhile, Alpine move up the table with another strong performance this weekend. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
So we just about managed to hold on to P4 in the constructors, but we do lose out to Norris in the drivers' standings as a result of that mechanical failure. It does mean that Alonso now steams ahead in our rivalry, and it's going to be really hard to get back at him, but we'll see what we can do. Enzo, I think in the end, probably had a pretty good race by the looks of things, because he gained quite a lot of acclaim from it. He didn't get any points, but you know, we don't expect him to at this point. If he does, that's amazing. We did manage to hit the 75 laps target, even though I had the DNF really early, which is nice. And yeah, that's pretty much it as far as this race weekend was concerned. A bit of a bust all in all, but nonetheless, I hope that you enjoyed, and if you did, make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.